Hello, everyone. Our topic for today is about the relationship between sociology and science. Now, when we speak about the relationship between sociology and science, let me be more specific. We're actually talking about the possibility of natural science methods being used in sociological researches, the possibility of the methods that are used in natural sciences, such as physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics. Can these methods be used in a sociological research? Or, for the matter of fact, should these methods even be used in a sociological research? Now, about this particular topic, this has been a very popular topic in terms of our CIs. If I have a look at our questions, or if I have a look at the past papers since last 10-15 years, this has been a very popular topic. However, recently, after the syllabus changed in 2021, we had this question in the specimen paper. After that, we haven't really been tested on this particular topic much. Before I proceed, I'd want you all to have a look at the question that we had in the specimen paper so that you have an idea about how you could possibly be tested on this particular topic. Now, to begin with, the question over here, like I said, from the specimen paper says, evaluate the use of scientific methods in sociological research. Like I said, methods that are used by mathematics, by physics, by chemistry, etc. Can these methods be used in sociology or a sociological research? Now, before we even begin, it's pretty important for us to establish what natural sciences are, or what does the author, or what does the examiner over here refer to when he uses the term, or when she uses the term natural sciences. Now, about natural sciences, to put it in a simplistic manner, you might have very often been asked about being a science student or not being a science student. So the question, if I ask you if you're a science student or not a science student, you do realize if you have subjects like physics, chemistry, and biology and mathematics, you'd refer to yourself as a science student. If not, you wouldn't call yourself a science student, right? So we have an idea about what the examiner refers to when he or she uses the term natural sciences over here. What we're trying to look at is the possibility of natural science methods being used in a sociological research, the possibility as well as the desirability of using natural science methods in a sociological research, right? So a few themes that we'd be looking into. Number one, is sociology a science? Number two, could it possibly be a science? Or rather say, should it even be a science, right? So is it a science? Could it be a science? Or should it even be a science, right? But we do, being sociology students, we should remind ourselves that before we even proceed with the discussion ahead, it's pretty essential that we understand what the word science over here means, what the word society over here means. So the concept of operationalization, being sociology students, see, a layman might not be able to trace this. A layman might not be able to understand this. But you as sociology students, it's pretty important that you do pick up hints from here. You do understand whenever we talk about talk about any particular theory or a hypothesis, we need to ensure that all our variables are operationalized, or we've given a definition to it, or we've established what it means when we use the word science or the word society, etc., etc. So about this particular topic, if I may refer to the marking scheme again, when writing down in support of the idea, we are expected to mention the positivist point of view, which should help us understand that positivists support the idea that natural science methods should be used in a sociological research. However, as a counter argument or as an antithesis, we should be using interpretivism. So from this, what we initially understand is that whenever whenever we're talking about natural science methods being used in sociological researches or otherwise, positivists support the idea that natural science methods should be used, whereas interpretivists are against the idea that natural science methods should be used in a sociological research. There's a lot more that we'd be discussing ahead. We'd even question the credibility of science. Remember when I had said we talk about the possibility and the desirability of natural science methods, right? So possibility is one thing, desirability is another, right? The desirability of using natural science methods in a sociological research, for us to want sociological research to be studied in a scientific manner, is science even worth it? Is science as credible as people think it is? Are scientists as objective as they are expected to be? So a lot more would be taken into account over here. I'd keep on referring to this marking scheme very often. So beginning with this, starting off with this, we spoke about what natural sciences are. We spoke about the possibility, the desirability part. We spoke about operationalization. Now, to begin with positivism. When we speak about positivism or positivism, what is positivism? Positivism is a methodological approach, right? uh Positivists, if we talk about early positivists, such as amongst them such as Durkheim, right? Durkheim, such as Auguste Comte, right? Auguste Comte and Durkheim. Auguste Comte, a positivist, an early positivist, right? They they advocated the idea that sociology should be studied in a scientific manner. So, according to positivists, as I mentioned earlier, yes, natural science methods can be and should be used for a sociological research, right? They can be used and they should be used for a sociological research. So, these early positivists, they where's the highlighter? Okay, yeah. So these early positivists, they tried seeing sociology as a, or they tried establishing sociology as a positive science of society. So they tried their level best because, science has credibility, right? Apparently, science has credibility. Apparently, science enjoys a higher status within the society. So these early positivists, they were pretty adamant on the idea that sociology, even when it is a relatively younger discipline, sociology, according to them, should be considered as a science. Sociology should be considered as a science of society. Should society Sociology, according to these early positivists, should enjoy the status, the privilege, the prestige that science does, right? So early positivists, they saw sociology as a positive science of society. When we speak about scientific methods, right? When we speak of scientific methods, or as we speak about scientific methods, in science, there are invariable laws. There are observable facts. In science, we have observable facts, right? I'm sure you all at some point or the other must have studied science. Even when it was at the basic primary level or early secondary level, you must have studied science as a subject. So when we speak about science, science has laws. When we speak about science, through science, we come up with observable facts, right? Through science, or scientific methods are typically seen to be observable, which again could be measurable, which again could be quantifiable. And scientific researchers are seen as objective researchers, or researchers without bias, without prejudice, without distortion, without any sort of opinion, right? So natural science methods typically have invariable laws. They have observable facts that can be measurable, that can be measured and quantified, and they use objective means, as apparently seen by many. And the aim in science is usually to discover the cause and effect relationship. Remember, cause and effect relationship, also referred to as the causal relationship. This is causal and not casual, right? The cause and effect relationship. This word causal comes from the word cause. Through scientific researches, scientists try the level best to be able to establish a cause and effect relationship through bringing in changes in the independent variable. They try to measure the effect it has on the dependent variable, right? Now, taking this ahead, let me take some Let me refer to the book as well so that you guys have a better understanding. If I may, the left side of the screen, if I may speak about the content from your book. This says early positivists saw sociology as a positive science of society. They argued that natural science methodology was appropriate for the study of human behavior. Its use would reveal the invariable laws that govern society, right? Use of scientific methods, according to early positivists, would help reveal the invariable laws, right? We're talking about revelation, we're talking about revealing invariable laws that typically govern a society, right? Data consists of the data that scientists use, right? The data consists of observable facts which could be directly measured and quantified. The research process would be objective, free from the researcher's values. Positivism aims to establish the cause and effect relationship that are seen as underlying human behavior. Statistical techniques are applied to numerical data in order to identify and measure possible cause and effect relationships. So, quantitative data that is directly observable, you use statistical techniques, and through those statistical techniques, you're trying to establish a cause and effect relationship, right? Now, a hypothesis or a prediction, on the basis of this, a hypothesis or a prediction is developed. A hypothesis translates the theory into form that can be tested, observation, and measured, and then used either to accept or reject the hypothesis. This in turn can result in a confirmation, modification, or rejection of the theory. Now, what I read is actually an explanation to the deductive approach to conducting researches, right? The deductive approach to conducting researches. Now, this deductive approach also referred to as the top-down approach. This deductive approach also referred to as the top-down approach. Why are we referring to this as a top-down approach over here, right? Now, let's start off with what the word deduce actually means. When we use the word deduce, deducing something, in other words, means arriving to a conclusion, right? To deduce something is to arrive to a conclusion. Likewise, when we use the term the deductive approach, like I'm saying, this is also referred to as a top-down approach. Through this approach, you use statistical techniques to through this approach, you use statistical techniques to identify cause and effect relationship. Based on that, you develop a theory or a hypothesis. Then you test that theory to then you try to test that theory. Based on that test, you either reject that theory or you accept that theory. In other words, you are, through your hypothesis, you're able to confirm your theory, you're able to modify your theory, or you're able to reject your theory, right? So we're talking about deducing something, right? A top-down approach. We are talking about figuring out a cause and effect relationship. We are talking about there being quantitative data. Based on that quantitative data that is directly observable, we use statistical techniques. Through those statistical techniques, there's a hypothesis that is developed, right? That hypothesis that is developed can be tested. Now you could test it, and after your testing, you could either confirm your theory, or you could you might come up with a conclusion that your theory requires some or the other modification, or you might as well reject it, right? Now, the deductive approach, this is also referred to as the hypothetical deductive research method, right? I just write it down. I don't think I have it written down over here. Just write it down over here so that you may copy it if you want to. Hypothetical deductive research method. The hypothetical deductive research method, right? So you have a hypothesis. Based on that hypothesis, you are deducing something, or you're coming up with a conclusion, right? Now, Why is it that we're referring to this as a top-down approach? Because remember, you initially, I probably have something way that would help you understand this better. So you have a theory. See, this is at the left side of the screen now. We're talking about there being a theory. Based on that theory, you come up with a hypothesis. You observe or you measure quantifiable data based on which you either confirm, modify, or reject your theory. Look at the direction of the arrows, and this is why we refer to this as a top-down approach. Now, we spoke about the deductive approach. We'd move on and speak about Karl Popper, and then we move on towards the inductive approach. And then we talk of the comparison between the deductive approach and the inductive approach. Now, taking this ahead, let's talk about Karl Popper. Karl Popper was a philosopher of science. Now, I'd want you all to not confuse Karl Popper with Karl Marx, right? Karl Marx, the Marxist perspective, Karl Popper, we're talking about a philosopher of science over here. Now, when we speak about Karl Popper back in the 20th century, Karl Popper adopted a deductive approach. Now, a few things that we need to establish before we get into detail about Karl Popper. Number one, Karl Popper advocated using deductive methods while conducting researches. Number two, Karl Popper believed, yes, sociology can use scientific methods, right? I'm linking this back with the question that we started off with about the possibility and desirability of natural science methods being used in sociology. So according to Karl Popper, yes, we could use natural science methods for sociological research, right? Now, number three, the third thing that I'd want you all to keep in mind, according to Karl Popper, as much as he was in line with, now this gentleman Karl Popper, as much as he was in line with the positivist stance about natural science methods being used in sociological research, as much as he seems to be in line when he advocates the idea of using a deductive approach. However, according to Karl Popper, he believed that we should be using the falsification approach, right? Or we should use falsification. The idea of falsification should be applied. Now we need to understand what this falsification is, right? Three things, right? I'm repeating them over and over again, and I'm expecting you to learn this with me. Number one, Karl Popper believed natural science methods can be and should be used for a sociological research. Number two, Karl Popper supported the idea of using deductive approach. However, according to him, instead of scientists trying to gain evidence to support their claim, or to trying to instead of scientists trying to look for evidence that helps them get their theory being accepted, what they should do is they should try to falsify it, right? Now, you know what, when we talk about scientists in general, or when we talk about anyone, I could give you a simple example over here. For instance, if I'm someone who believes that Apple products are better than let's just say Samsung products, right? I'm not trying to endorse any brand. I'm trying to help you understand this better. If I believe that Apple products are better than Android products or Samsung products, you know what? This is a theory that I have based on which I could come up with a hypothesis, which I would try to the best of my capacity to confirm, which I would try to try my level best that it gains acceptance, the idea that Apple products are better, right? According to Popper, however, according to Popper, instead of trying to get your theory accepted, I repeat, instead of trying to get your theory accepted, instead of trying to gain conformity towards the stance you hold, what you should do is you should try to falsify it, right? You should try to falsify your theory. Now, what does the word falsification mean? Give it a read again. Falsify, or to try to prove your theory wrong. Because guess what? If you try to get your theory proved right, you'd try to look for evidence that helps you prove it right. However, if you try to prove your theory wrong, you if you try to prove your theory wrong and you succeed, right? If you try to prove your theory wrong and you succeed, that in other words means you were never right, right? However, if your theory still survives falsification, or if you do not succeed, I repeat, if you do not succeed in trying in proving your theory wrong, that means according to Popper, you could be closer to truth, because Popper believed truth, my dear, is not absolute. Popper believed the entire idea of truth is provisional. Popper believed what is seen as being true today is context bound, it's time bound. What could be seen as true today has the possibility of being proven wrong tomorrow. So, Popper advocated falsification. According to Popper, do not try to prove your theory right, instead, try to prove your theory wrong. And if you are not successful in proving your theory wrong, you could be closer to truth, because absolute truth, according to Popper, does not exist, because according to Popper, all sort of truth is provisional. Right now, taking this ahead, let's have a look at what the book has to say about this. Like Positivist, the philosopher of science, Karl Popper adopted a deductive approach, but in a rather different way. He started with a theory and used data to test the theory. However, instead of looking to confirm theories, Popper argued that scientists should look for evidence to disapprove or falsify their theories. This means that theories must be constructed in such a way that falsification is possible, that theories can be shown to be untrue. Now, another important element that I'd want you all to keep in mind, according to Popper, whenever you're coming up with a hypothesis, make sure your hypothesis is precise. Make sure you're pretty specific about what you're trying to look at. Because if your hypothesis, if your theory is not specific, no one can prove you wrong. If it's vague, it wouldn't be easy for anyone to test that theory, right? For instance, if I may give you an example over here, if I talk about Karl Marx, right? Do not get confused. We spoke about Karl Popper first, and now we're talking about Karl Marx. According to Karl Marx, communism, remember, Karl Marx had predicted there would be a revolution, right? According to Karl Marx, communism is inevitable. We'd eventually have a revolution that would bring capitalism to an end, and we would have communism in this world, in the society, right? Now, do you realize we cannot prove Karl Marx wrong? Because his entire prediction, it sounds pretty vague. Karl Marx claimed there would be a revolution. Did he specify any particular date? Had Karl Marx specified a particular date, we could have all waited for that date and then come up to a conclusion that Karl Marx theory what do you call it? It's rejected, or let's say confirmed, right? However, because Karl Marx's prediction wasn't specific. He did not mention, he did not specify, he did not, he could have said probably that by the end of the first quarter of the 21st century, there would be a revolution that would bring capitalism to an end, that would bring communism in the society. But did he do that? No, he did not. And when Karl Marx was not precise about what he meant, we can never falsify his theory, right? Based on this, getting back to Karl Popper now, right? Karl Marx, Karl Popper, two different people. According to Karl Popper, this means that theories must be constructed in such a way that falsification is possible, but that theories can be shown to be untrue over time, right? Come up with theories in a manner that your theories could be falsified as well. Theories that survive falsification tests, however, are not necessarily true. They have simply not been falsified. The following example illustrates this point. All swans are white is a scientific statement because it can be falsified. But however, many times it is confirmed by observation. It cannot be accepted as true because the very next swan might be black, red, blue, or yellow. In this respect, there are no absolute truths in science. Scientific knowledge is provisional rather than certain or true for all time. I think the Karl Marx example must have made more sense to you. But nonetheless, this was another example from your book. According to Karl Popper, all truth, all scientific knowledge, rather, is provisional, right? It is not certain. It is just it is just a piece of knowledge that has not been falsified as yet. Popper saw no reason why the methodology of natural sciences cannot be applied to social science. Bang, we connected with what we had started off with. Remember, we had spoken about how Karl Popper believed that natural science methods can be and should be a part of scientific research. No, natural science methods can be and should be a part of sociological research, right? Theories of human behavior, which are open to the possibility of falsification, can be developed. However, not all sociological theories are open to falsification. Theories that cannot be falsified are not scientific. So, Popper is very clear when he believes that natural science methods could be and should be used in sociological research. However, there's a condition he wants to keep away. According to him, come up with theories that can be falsified. If your theories cannot be falsified, no, you cannot. Your theories are not scientific, right? Now, on one end, my dear, we spoke about the deductive approach. On the other extreme, let's talk about the inductive approach. Now, inductive approach also referred to as the bottom-up approach, right? Remember when we had spoken about deductive approach, I had referred to it as a top-down approach. This inductive approach, this is the bottom-up approach, right? This is a bottom-up approach. One. Number two, this inductive approach is also referred to as the grounded theory, right? Now, we are using three different words for the same thing. Number one, I use the word inductive approach. Number two, I use the word bottom up approach. Number three, I use the word a grounded theory. A grounded theory, as its name suggests, starts from concrete data, right? Now, on the ground, it then builds upon upwards to theory. This is known as an inductive approach. It moves in a bottom up rather than a top down direction. Starting with data, an inductive approach moves to an analysis of the data, looking for connections, patterns, and relationships. From this, it develops a theory to explain these relationships. Now, I would like to use this figure over here to help you understand this inductive approach better. Now, according to this inductive approach, instead of coming up with a theory first, what you do is you start off collecting data with no preconceived notions, with no preconceived ideas about what you think could be right, right? Do you know what? If you if you already believe in something being right, you might, as well as a human, try to look for evidence to support your point, right? Getting back to the example that I'd mentioned a couple of minutes back, when I'd said, if I'm someone who believes Apple products are better than Samsung products, I would try to look for evidence to support the idea that Apple products are better, right? So according to this inductive approach, you start off with no preconceived notions. You start off with no preconceived idea, preconceived ideas that you carry in your head. You start off with merely collecting data. Collect data first, then analyze your data. Look at the direction of the arrows over here, right? Collect data first, then you analyze your data. Based on the analysis of the data, you could form patterns, or you could discover relationships based on which you could come up with a theory, right? So the inductive approach being the total opposite of the deductive approach. According to this inductive approach, which is also referred to as the bottom up approach, you start with collecting data. Based on that collection of data, once you're done collecting your data, you analyze that data, you form patterns and relationships based on which you come up with a theory. So the inductive approach from the right side of the screen now, it's a grounded theory, a bottom up approach. They believe in collecting data first, then the analysis of the data, through which they believe eventually theories could be formed. So if I may talk about the difference between the deductive and the inductive approach, they both present on your screen. You could see how they both different from each other. Now about this inductive approach, Durkheim supported the inductive approach. According to him, you should start your research without any preconceived notions or biasness. wait, oh, what is the gentleman's name? Sudhir Venkatesh research, if you all remember. Sudhir Venkatesh research is an amazing example of an inductive approach. The gentleman started with zero preconceived ideas, none that we know of at least. And based on that, he started collecting data. And based on the data that he collected, he eventually came up with theories. Now, taking this ahead, we spoke about the inductive approach supported by Durkheim. We could use Venkatesh research or the book he wrote, Gang Leader for a Day, this example over here. On the other hand, we spoke about the deductive approach. This deductive approach, the idea of deductive approach was supported by Popper. However, in a different manner, we discussed that. So once we know the difference between the deductive and the inductive approach, a concern or a question that might occur in a mind is, could they both be used together, or could they both be used? The answer to that is yes, they could both be used too. For example, Durkheim, right? We're talking about the possibility of a deductive as well as an inductive approach being used together. Now, about this deductive approach and inductive approach being used together, Durkheim argued that sociological research should be based on inductive approach. He stated that researchers should start with the recognition of complete ignorance and that all preconceptions have to be eradicated. However, when we speak about Durkheim again over here, let me show you where. So, for example, this part. For example, Durkheim began his research on society. Now, what I'm saying is Durkheim used both deductive and the inductive approach together, right? Durkheim began his research on suicide with an inductive approach. So, Durkheim began his research on suicide with an inductive approach. He examined and compared official statistics on suicide from 11 European countries. He found patterns in the statistics from which he moved towards theories which may have explained them. Then he tested these theories using a deductive approach. So, according to Swedberg in 2011, Durkheim, as much as he supported the idea of inductive approach when it came to when it came to conducting research himself, his research on his infamous research on suicide was initially started off with through an inductive approach, and then very soon Durkheim switched to the deductive approach. So yes, there's a possibility of the deductive and inductive approach being used together. Now, as noted by Swedberg in 2011, Swedberg exemplifies this through the research that was conducted by Durkheim. Now, where did we take a start from? The topic that we're doing today is about the possibility and desirability of using natural science methods in a sociological research, the possibility and the desirability of using natural science methods in a sociological research. We started off with what natural sciences were. We spoke about the concept of operationalization. We moved on and we spoke about how positivists support the idea of using natural science methods in the sociological research. We went on to understand the difference between the deductive and the inductive approach. And now we'd take this ahead and we would speak about, or we would discuss what the stance was that was held by Thomas Kuhn on normal sciences. You know what? We have been talking about natural science methods being used or not being used. Remember at the beginning, what I had said was, let's also try to question the claims made by science about being high in objectivity. Let's try to test, let's try to see what view, what Thomas Kuhn felt about the nature of science, the very nature of science, right? Now, if I talk about what science is according to Durkheim, Durkheim, science accumulates evidence based on which it develops theories. According to Popper, science creates testable theories and attempts to falsify them, right? Now, Kuhn doesn't not agree to Durkheim and Popper, right? This is what Durkheim felt about science. This is what Popper felt about science. And about Kuhn, according to Thomas Kuhn, normal science typically operates within a particular paradigm, right? Now we are starting off with this concept of a paradigm, right? Kuhn, we came up with the idea of paradigm, and we talk about how using this concept of paradigms, Kuhn tries to make his point, right? Now, paradigms. What does the word paradigm over here mean? When we use the word paradigm, paradigm refers to any sort of a framework or ideas or theories that scientists typically believe in, that scientists usually follow, that scientists typically use. These paradigms even include the sort of questions that can be asked in science, right? So, we are talking about Thomas Kuhn. Thomas Kuhn does not agree to Durkheim and Popper. Kuhn does not agree to Durkheim and Popper. According to Thomas Kuhn, normal science operates within a paradigm. Now, if I put it in a simplistic manner, we're talking about how Thomas Kuhn is set to question the very nature of science, right? Now, we are talking about the possibility and the desirability of using natural science methods in a sociological research, right? Now, what if science is not good enough? What if what we're trying to use, or what we're trying to look for possibilities of using for a sociological research, it is not as concrete, it is not as objective as people see it to be, like, right? So Thomas Kuhn, for Durkheim, science consists of accumulating evidence and developing theories from the evidence. For Popper, science consists of creating testable theories and attempting to falsify them. However, for Thomas Kuhn, normal science, the vast majority of work which is called science, differs from both of these. According to Cohn, argued that the way science has developed bears little relationship to conventional views of scientific method, right? So, according to Thomas Kuhn, science does not, right? So, if I put things in order over here, according to Thomas Kuhn, science operates on the basis of paradigms. These paradigms are frameworks, ideas, or theories that scientists use, and they operate within this framework, right? Now, science, according to Durkheim, does not rely on progressive accumulation of knowledge based on testing hypothesis. You know what? The general idea that we all hold is that scientific knowledge relies on progressively, step by step, accumulating knowledge, testing that knowledge through a hypothesis, and then coming up to a conclusion. However, according to Thomas Kuhn, this does not always happen. According to Kuhn, science always operates on the principles, on the basics of paradigms, and these paradigms, they tend to change, right? Now, scientific changes, according to Cohn, they occur within a paradigm. They even occur within a paradigm, and they occur when one paradigm is replaced by another paradigm. Now, when we talk about Cohn, we need to keep in mind that Cohn is trying to question the very nature of science, right? Now, according to Cohn, science operates on paradigms. These paradigms, they are replaceable through scientific revolutions, right? There are scientific revolutions that lead to one paradigm being changed by another, being replaced by another. Uh, let me, where were we? So we were here. Let me use the other screen over here as well. Uh, so I think I need to bring this screen. Uh, I think this would work. So this is just change sides. I think that should be fine with us. So yeah, now, according to Cohen, sociology is in a pre-pragmatic phase, but I'll get to that part in a bit, right? So, talking about Thomas Kuhn over here, having a look at what Thomas Kuhn has to say about paradigms. According to Kuhn, most of the time scientists are busily preoccupied with normal science. Most of the time, scientists are busily preoccupied with normal science. There's a normal paradigm that there's a paradigm that exists, that framework. Everyone keeps on following that framework, right? Normal science operates within a paradigm. A paradigm is a framework of concepts and theories which states how the natural world operates. It identifies approaches, methods for studying that world, and specifies what questions to ask and how to answer them. A paradigm is shaped by members of the scientific community. It shapes the way they see the world that they study. So if the world you're studying is shaped through a particular paradigm, according to Kuhn, many scientists, what they do is they, without even questioning or testing that particular paradigm, they keep on following it, or rather say they have blind faith in that paradigm, which they keep on following. So normal science operates within the confines of a paradigm, developing and refining it, but not challenging it, right? So normal paradigms are developed, they're refined, but no one challenges them, according to Cohn. For example, until the 16th century, Western astronomy was based on the theory of terrestriality, the idea that planets and the sun moves around the Earth. It is perfectly possible to confirm this idea with observation measurements. It is also possible to ignore or explain away contradictory evidence that might challenge it. Scientists are so committed to the existing paradigm that they operate within it rather than attempting to falsify it. However, Cohn rejects the conventional view that sees science as a progressive accumulation of knowledge based on the testing and proving or disproving of the hypothesis. Changes do occur, or change does occur, but only when one paradigm is replaced by another paradigm. Kuhn calls this process a scientific revolution, right? A scientific revolution where one particular paradigm is replaced by another paradigm. It is sudden and revolutionary because a whole way of thinking about the world is swept away within a relatively short period of time. An example of this scientific revolution is the replacement of Newton's paradigm in physics with Einstein's. Once a new paradigm is established, normal science resumes, and any real change has to wait until the next scientific revolution or breakthrough. Scientific revolutions occur when evidence accumulates that cannot be explained in terms of existing paradigm. This existence builds to the point where it cannot be ignored or dismissed as the result or of incorrect observation and measurement. I think I'd want to get into this a bit more, right? So have a look at this chart that you see at the top right of the screen now. According to Cohn, there's a particular paradigm. People would develop that paradigm, scientists would rather, right? Scientists would develop that paradigm, scientists would further refine that paradigm, but they would never challenge that paradigm, right? So that paradigm would be followed without being questioned. Scientists would use them for decades, maybe, right? And then a particular point comes when when people start questioning that particular paradigm, when there are so many questions raised, that there are so many anomalies that are developed, right? Anomaly or questions that cannot be answered, right? So there's a paradigm being followed. We're going step by step, okay? So there's a paradigm being followed for quite a long time. No one questions that paradigm. And then all of a sudden a point comes when there are so many questions built up, right? When there's so many questions against that paradigm that cannot even be answered, that particular paradigm experiences a crisis, right? And as soon as the paradigm experiences a crisis, there's a scientific revolution, and this new paradigm is now replaced, right? Now a new paradigm comes. This new paradigm, again, initially it would not be very easy for scientists to show acceptance towards that new paradigm, but then slowly and gradually people would start getting used to it, getting it to the point that no one would start questioning it, right? Again, after a few decades, maybe there are anomalies, could be years, could be decades. Again, anomalies rise, anomalies develop, making that paradigm go through a crisis, leading to a scientific revolution, and there comes a third paradigm. And this is how there's a paradigmatic shift. The term I'm using over here is a paradigmatic shift, right? So there are scientific revolutions. Based on those scientific revolutions, one paradigm is replaced by another, experiencing a paradigmatic shift, okay? Now, taking this ahead, I'm assuming we've all understood how through scientific revolutions, one paradigm is replaced by another. Now let's connect this with sociology. We've been speaking about science, right? So let's connect this with sociology. What about sociology? Getting back to square one, the question that we had was, about the possibility and the desirability of natural science methods being used in sociology. The possibility and the desirability of using natural science methods being used in a sociological research, right? Is sociology a science? Question mark, right? Now, do you know what? To begin with, remember when Cohn said science operates under a framework referred to as a paradigm, which everyone agrees to typically, right? Now, my question over here is, or Cohn's question over here is rather, is sociology based on a particular paradigm? Is there a particular framework in sociology that is not questioned, that is not criticized, that is not scrutinized, that is being adopted and followed uncritically? No, the answer is no. For science, there's a paradigm that everyone follows in a in one particular channel, one particular dimension. However, when you talk about sociology, sociology has perspectives. Remember, Marxism, functionalism, feminism, interactionism, symbolic interactionism, ethnomethodology, so on and so forth. In sociology, there is yet to be a paradigm, right? There's no particular framework, there's no particular paradigm that everyone follows in an uncritical manner, that everyone follows without questioning it. In that case, sociology, according to Cohen, is still going through its pre-scientific or pre-paradigmatic phase, right? Now, sociology and paradigms. In terms of Cohen's view of science, it has been argued that sociology is in a pre-paradigmatic and therefore pre-scientific situation. There's a range of competing sociological perspectives, but scant indication that this variety will develop into a single paradigm that would be acceptable to the sociological community. So to this date, even when there's this first quarter of the 21st century is coming to an end, there's no single paradigm in sociology that everyone follows without even questioning it. However, Cohen's view of paradigms and scientific revolution has been criticized too, right? So Cohen said what he had to. Cohen came up with the idea of paradigms. Cohen came up with the idea of scientific revolutions. Cohen explained how scientists are not objective and they keep on following a particular paradigm. And then we connect it with sociology. We spoke about how in sociology there are perspectives and there is no single paradigm that everyone would follow or everyone follows without questioning, right? Now, for example, Lakatos in 1970 rejects the view that normal science is dominated by a single paradigm. Now, we're talking about Lakatos and we are comparing what Lakatos said with Thomas Kuhn, right? Now, according to Kuhn, in science, there is a particular paradigm that is followed in by the scientific community. However, according to Lakatos, this is not true. Lakatos rejects the view that normal science is dominated by a single paradigm. Instead, he sees the development of a science as a history of constantly competing paradigms, right? Lakatos sees the development of science as a history of constantly competing paradigms. In terms of Lakatos's view, this does not disqualify sociology from being a science. In fact, sociology's history of competing perspectives largely accords with his value of the history of science. So Thomas Kuhn believes no sociological methods, no scientific methods cannot be used in sociology because according to Kuhn, sociology is still going through its pre-scientific and pre-paradigmatic era. However, according to Lakatos, this is not a convincing explanation as to why scientific methods should not be used in sociological research. According to Lakatos, yes, sociological methods could pretty much or could and should be used in a sociological research. So we see we were discussing this topic about the possibility and desirability of natural science methods in a sociological research. Uh, for a sociological essay, an evaluative essay, 26 mark evaluative essay, we are expected to write down both sides of the argument. We expected to support the argument and write down against it as well. As referred by many, we are supposed to give a thesis and an antithesis to it as well. We spoke about positivism. We spoke about how positivists advocate very strongly the idea of using natural science methods in a sociological research. We spoke about the deductive and the inductive approaches. We spoke about the differences between them. We spoke about Cohen and falsification. We spoke about Popper and falsification, and we spoke about Cohen and the idea behind paradigms playing their role. Moving on now, we'd be discussing the realist approach to science. The realist approach to science. Who are realists now? The realist view of science, while accepting that there are basic differences between the social and natural world. Now, it's pretty important we understand. Realists accept that there are basic differences between the social and the natural world. They at the same time maintain that a social science is possible. So realists accept that there are differences between the natural and the social world, but at the same time they come up with the possibility of the existence of social science. It argues, that is, realists argue that events in both the social and the natural worlds are produced by underlying structures and mechanisms. According to the realist perspective, both events in the natural world as well as the social world, they are produced by underlying structures. They're underlying structures, underlying mechanisms that are leading to things happening the way they are happening in the natural as well as the social world. According to Roy Bhaskar, the essential task of realism is to uncover and explain these structures and mechanisms. So there are underlying structures and mechanisms that make things happen the way they do happen in the natural as well as the social world. According to Roy Bhaskar, however, it is essentially, it's a task of realism to uncover and to explain these structures and mechanisms, right? Now, about the realist perspective, we'd speak about uh, Roy Bhaskar, Andrew Sayre, Keat, and Yuri. You might use this to learn books, BUKS, Bhaskar, Yuri, Keat, and Sayre. This would help you. I mean, try if this works for you, you could use this to learn these references for the realist perspective. BUKS, Bhaskar, Yuri, Keat, and Sayre, right? Now, the realist approach to science believes that yes, there are differences between the natural world and the social world. One. Number two, they believe that there's a possibility of the existence of social sciences. Number three, a realist, Roy Bhaskar, believes that it is the task of realism to uncover and to explain these structures and mechanisms that make things happen the way they do happen. So, Andrew Sayre, the concept of an open and a closed system. We need to understand what the difference is between an open and a closed system over here. When we use the term a closed system, as we use the term a closed system, starting off with closed system over here, as we use the term closed system, we are actually referring to artificial arrangements like laboratories. You've all studied experiments. You do know in a closed setting, in an artificial setting, the extent to which variables could be controlled, right? In a laboratory, there's more of control, right? If I put it in a simple manner, there's more of control within a laboratory setting, right? So if there is more of control, that means uh, there are lesser chances of the extraneous variables messing up, which would eventually mean you could relatively easily figure out the cause and effect relationship, right? The causal relationships, right? Now, and on the other hand, when we speak about open systems, unlike the closed systems, because they are not very good when it comes to controlling the extraneous variables, hence establishing cause and effect relationship might not be easy. So open and closed systems, I'd like to assume we've understood the difference between open and closed systems, right? Andrew Sayre in 1992 distinguishes between open and closed systems as arenas of study. The laboratory is the prime example of a closed system. Sciences such as physics and chemistry have the advantage of being able to create closed systems in which conditions can be fixed and variables controlled. This allows them to reveal more clearly the operation of mechanism. This is the mechanism we're talking about, right? So this allows to reveal more clearly the operation of mechanisms, according to Andrew Sayre in 1992. To put it in or to turn this into a one-liner, according to Andrew Sayre, sciences or scientific researches are conducted in laboratories that are more controlled, which allows you to get more clarity in terms of what you're trying to figure out or establish. However, a large body of scientific research takes place within open systems as well, where it is not possible to control variables. So I'd like to additionally add up another line. See, so far we've been talking about the difference between natural sciences and social sciences, right? Let's, for now, for once, right? Let's for once talk about the similarities between them instead of the differences, right? So we've talked about, oh, this happens in science and this does not happen in science, or this happens in science, this happens in sociology. Let's for now talk about the similarities between natural sciences and social sciences. According to the realist perspective, if we're trying to focus on the similarities over here, even in science, when there are researches being conducted through an open system, even scientists can never be sure, they can never be certain about uh, a few things. For instance, if we talk about the meteorological departments, or if we talk about meteorology, it's an example of natural science. I'm sure everyone would agree, where closed systems are very rare. As a result, it is unable to predict the weather and with any degree of accuracy, as weather forecasts indicate. However, it is able to offer an explanation of the weather after the event in terms of underlying mechanisms. So yeah, science or the meteorological departments, they at times do make predictions, but are they accurate? No, they're not. How often do you think earthquakes can be predicted? No, they cannot. Like I say, this 21st century, the first quarter of the 21st century is coming to an end, even to this date, regardless of the technological advancement, regardless of the development, the enormous amount of development that science has had, even to this date, one cannot with accuracy, I repeat, one cannot with accuracy predict an earthquake or continental drifts. Yes, once they've happened, you could provide an explanation behind it, right? You could give an explanation to the mechanisms that have led to it, but can you predict them with accuracy? No, you cannot. Likewise, if you talk about uh, medical science, that's a science too. Can a doctor with prediction, with accuracy, predict when a particular patient, when a particular individual would go through what particular illness? No, he cannot, right? Likewise, another example, we could speak about Charles Darwin, the theory of evolution. What Darwin claimed, can that be observed through naked eye? No, he spoke about an evolution that takes centuries, right? So, one of the most famous non-predictive explanations is the theory of evolution. This specifies mechanisms such as natural selection and mutation, which are seen to underlie the evolutionary process. However, because evolution takes place within an open system, it is not possible to predict its future, right? Human behavior takes place in an open system too. As a result, it is not possible to predict its course with any degree of accuracy. There's no way of controlling all the variables that affect human action. However, from a realist viewpoint, this does not rule out a social science. It is still possible to explain human behavior in terms of underlying structures and mechanisms. So we spoke about science typically being scientific knowledge or science typically being operating under control systems. Where there are control systems, yes, there's more accuracy. Yes, cause and effect relationships can be established better relatively. However, even if we pick up from examples from open systems, even when we pick up examples of science through open systems, we see that when in situations where science operates through open systems, uh, the scientific knowledge that is gained lacks accuracy, right? So again, forming an analogy over here, linking it with human beings, human behavior takes place in an open system too. You cannot control variables. You cannot control human behavior, right? Which again makes it impossible to predict any course of action by human beings with accuracy, right? Now, taking this ahead, we spoke of the realist approach to science. A social science is possible. Events in both the social and natural worlds are produced by underlying structures. According to Roy Bhaskar, realism uncovers and explains these structures or mechanisms. I'd strongly appreciate if you guys would be taking notes, right? I don't know if it's too late for me to mention, but yeah, do take notes. And the notes that you make would help you understand this better and eventually would help you with your revision as well. And like I had said at the beginning, this has been a super popular topic. I'd rather show you questions from I think we could go back to 2005. So yes, this has been a very popular topic. Nonetheless, recently we haven't had much questions on this. It's on you to figure out how important this is or this is not today. There's always a possibility that this could be the next 26 mark question, the next 26 mark evaluative essay that you come across. And if it is something like that, I expect you to ace it. Now, open and closed systems. This idea put forward by Andrew Sayre in 1992. Natural sciences have an advantage of closed systems. Exceptions exist, though. Variables affecting human action cannot be controlled, therefore, we cannot rule out a social science. Now, realism, sociology, and science. Social science is similar to natural science. In both cases, events are produced by structures and mechanisms. So, taking this ahead, from a realist viewpoint, events in both the natural and social worlds are produced by structures and mechanisms. Given this, social science is based on the same principles as natural sciences. Both are concerned with the identification and explanation of structures and mechanisms. In this respect, the social scientist's job is the same as a natural scientist. So just as an evolutionary biologist identifies mechanisms such as natural selection to account for biological change, so a sociologist identifies mechanisms such as the class struggles to account for a social change. So I hope you've understood the analogy over here, right? Now, taking this a step further, we had started off with positivism. We'd bring this to an end through interpretivism. There are a couple of more theories that I'd like uh, you all to have an idea about too, which would again, number one, enhance your understanding of this particular topic. Number two, feel you or make you feel more confident about whatever you're learning about this. So, uh, yeah, interpretivism and natural sciences. On one extreme, we had positivism. On the other extreme, we're talking about the interpretivist perspective. Unlike the positivist perspective, according to the interpretivist perspective, no, natural science methods should not be used in sociological research. Natural science methods cannot be used and should not be used, right? Cannot, the possibility; should not, the desirability. So, interpretivism and natural sciences. Let me remind you all about interpretivism. Interpretivism, my dear, they focus on qualitative research methods. They believe in studying human consciousness that is, of course, not observable through human naked eye. Natural science methods, according to the interpretivist perspective, should not be and cannot be used for sociological researches because human behavior is not predictable. Humans have free will. How do you spell free will? So humans have free will, right? Humans operate on the principles of agency, right? They have their consciousness, active consciousness. Human beings play an active role. They're not, see, science studies matter. Matter does not have any sort of free will. Science studies matter. Matter does not have free will. Social sciences study humans. Humans have free will. Humans act and interact. Humans do not react, right? Humans do not react just like matter does, right? If you take me wrong here. So humans do not react like matters. Humans have free will, humans have agency, humans act and then interact with other humans. So, taking this ahead, the interpretivist view on natural science methodology. Interpretivism starts from the view that subject matters of the natural and the social sciences is fundamentally different, right? The natural scientist investigates the behavior of matter. Matter is an inanimate and does not have an agency. Matter is inanimate and does not have an agency. So it reacts in predictable ways to external stimuli. Human beings act and interact rather than react. They have agency and their actions and interpretations are directed by meaning. Any understanding of human action must therefore involve an understanding of their meanings. For many researchers, this necessitates employing methods that are very different from those used in the natural sciences. So, in a nutshell, according to interpreters, do not use scientific methods. The sociologist's job is to discover meaning. Now, these are basics on interpretivism, which I'm assuming we're all familiar with. This involves observation and interpretation. Qualitative methods, in particular participant observation and in-depth interviews, are seen as the main ways of discovering meaning. The research process is viewed as an art rather than a science. This is put so beautifully. Research process is being seen as an should be seen as an art, not a science, according to interpretivists. Art. Interpretivists accept that objectivity is not possible. According to interpretivist perspective, the objectivity or the objective nature that positivists keep on advocating, it's not possible for researches to be conducted on human beings without subjectivity, right? Let me assume we all know the difference between objectivity and subjectivity. And objective research is a research that is based on that is not biased, not distorted, not uh, yeah, any research that is not biased is an objective research. A research that is biased is a subjective research. So interpretivists accept that objectivity is not possible. The discovery of meaning cannot be value free, right? Now this is linked to another topic, the very next topic that we do after this topic, that is value free sociological research. It is inevitably affected by the researchers who become personally involved and immersed in the research, right? According to interpreters, remember, my dear, they advocate the usage of qualitative research methods. They advocate the usage of uh, interviews such as subjective interviewing techniques, such as unstructured interviews. They believe in observing, they believe in Wursten, right? Now, who personally involved and immersed in their research. So if a researcher is personally involved and immersed in a research, how could you expect his or her research to be objective then, right? If you are if you're a participant observer, if you're a part of the research, if you're part of that research, the likelihood of your values or your subjectivity being a part of it is always high. There are many views of science and scientific methods. As a result, there are many views about the relationship between sociology and science, and about the appropriateness of applying the assumptions and methods of the natural sciences in the study of human behavior. So you could use this as a conclusion here. There are many views of science and scientific methods. We just spoke about the two main ones, positivism and interpretivism. And then we started questioning the very nature of science in itself. As a result, there are many views about the relationship between sociology and science, about the appropriateness of applying the assumptions and methods of the natural sciences to the study of human behavior. So this by bringing this to an end, we have come up, we've dealt with the major chunk for this particular topic. Now a few tiny little things that I'd want you all to have an idea about as well. But before I move on to that part, I'd like to show you all the question that we took a start from. The question over here was, evaluate the use of scientific methods in sociological research. So we've outline of positivist view on the view of a scientific approach to research, the discussion of positivist methods highlighting their reliability and objectivity, such as using experiments, or you could use surveys through which you could gain quantitative data, that is close-ended questionnaires or experiments, numbers, figures, research, additional concepts, hypothetical deductive research method. We just spoke about that. Quantitative data. Yes, positivists believe in using quantitative data, which I'm assuming we all do know, we're aware of. Research is being objective. Of course, quantitative data leads to replication made easier, which leads to further reliability. Representativeness, quantitative data, through quantitative data, because quantitative data is typically easier to gather. You could get hold of a lot of data from a lot of people, which of course, if your sample, if the sample that you've chosen to collect your data from, if the sample that you've chosen to collect your data from, if it is large, that makes your findings more generalizable. The evaluative part, or the other flip side of the coin, or the antithesis, or the critique of the positivist approach from an interpretivist perspective, this is what we just spoke about. Critique of the notion of objectivity, that this part now, this part, here you go, right? Discussion of whether sociology should seek to mimic scientific approaches, like we had spoken about how people seeing them as research thinkers, seeing them as two different phenomenons as well. We spoke about Karl Popper, we spoke about Thomas Kuhn, Michael Lynch. I'd speak about Michael Lynch in a bit, maybe used to challenge the notion of objectivity. Let me give you a quick idea about Michael Lynch. Michael Lynch, my dear, criticized the idea that sociology should be scientific. Michael Lynch was a scientist who was conducting a research in a laboratory on in a psychobiological laboratory, actually, in 1983, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, Michael Lynch conducted a research in 1983. He studied his fellow scientists who were conducting a research in a psychobiological laboratory on a rat brain, on rat brains, right? So according to Michael Lynch, the extent to which scientists claim that the researches are objective is not true. According to Michael Lynch, scientists, they portray themselves to be objective, which is not true. According to Lynch, the scientists that he witnessed conducting a research on rat brain in a psychobiological laboratory, according to Lynch, while studying rat brain, the parts of rat brain that scientists could very easily explain, they did, right? The parts of rat brain that scientists could explain, they did. However, there were certain parts of rat brain that the scientists could not explain, right? Now, when you cannot explain something, you might as well be honest enough to say, no, you cannot provide an explanation to something. Instead of doing that, what scientists did was they started referring to it as an error in the research. So scientists, according to Michael Lynch, are not as objective as people think they are. Instead of accepting that they could not provide an explanation to the parts of a rat brain, they called it an error in the research. So again, Lynch is challenging the notion of objectivity that scientists hold. The above content is indicative. I say this over and over again. Marking schemes only provide you with indicative content. What does it mean? Indicative content, in other words, you write this, well and good. You do not write this if you think you have something better. If you think you could explain, you could evaluate the statement, the question, or you could answer the question without the content that is being specified over here. That works too. The above content is indicative, and other relevant approaches to the question should be rewarded appropriately. References to sociological theories other than positivism and interpretivism may be present, but not necessarily even for full marks. I would want you all to keep these references. I mean, I would want you all to use these references even when the examiner says you they're not necessary for you to score full marks, but that's the examiners added this line probably because of the change that was made in the syllabus after 2021. I just show you that change so that there are things that are clearer to you as well, right? Now, taking this ahead, I'd initially show you that change. There are a couple of other references that I'd like to show you as well. So when the syllabus was changed in 2021, they had these are the major changes that were made. I mean, this is available on the CI website as well. You could go through this. And the change, I'm talking about the change that was made in 2021. This says the theory content in paper 2, theory and methods, has been reduced significantly. Initially, it was paper 2, now it's paper 1. Marxist, functionalist, feminist, postmodernist, and Weberian theories have been removed, and there will be assistant in the family. Now, let me be very clear. What the examiner means over here is that these theories, they would not be tested in paper 1. They would not be tested in paper 1. I mean, you cannot get a specific question about functionalism or Marxism in paper 1, right? However, yes, they would be tested in paper 2. The amount of content on structuralist and interactionist approaches has been reduced. Candidates now only need to be aware of the differences between structuralist and interactionist views on the relationship between individual and society. A detailed knowledge of the approach is not required. Nonetheless, I'd strongly advise you all to learn these references that we have spoken about. Like I said, yes, this has been a very important topic, and I still think this, even to this date, is a very important topic. I'd move on and show you content on Michael Lynch, which you might as well want to copy if you feel like. So yeah, here you are. This is about Michael Lynch. You might as well pause this and take notes if required. About there are numerous other concepts that you could add up to this as well. For instance, you could uh, put up this idea that was put forward by Kaplan. I'll just brush through this real quick. Now, according to Kaplan, Kaplan came up with the idea of reconstructed logic and logic in use. Now, this was put forward in 1964. According to Kaplan, reconstructed logic is the method scientists claim that they would use, the methods that they the method that scientists claim that they would use, we refer to them as reconstructed logic, whereas logic in use is the actual methods that scientists use. So again, we could question the very nature of science over here by uh, the nature of science by adding up that scientists at times claim that they would use a particular method which is objective, which in many cases does not turn out to be as objective as scientists claim them to be. So you could additionally add up these other references as well. You could add up Auguste Comte view on this. You could add up Marx's view, Metaverse, Slyer, Fairbairn, feminism, Hillary Rose. These are feminists over here. You could add up these ideas as well. You could uh, pause this video over here and take notes on whatever. I mean, it's sociology is vast. Sociology is vast. I could go on and on and on. I could spend another hour explaining all of this to you, but then again, I don't want to get to you guys to that saturation point. I would want you guys to, and for the ones who think they'd want additional knowledge, here you are. And a couple of questions that we've had on this from the past papers. Let's look at, oh, let's go back to 2003. That has got 20 years back. Look at the question. Okay, back then you used to have 25-mark questions, evaluative essay questions, and not 26. Sociological research can and should be based on methods of natural science. Assess the view that sociological research should be based on methods of natural science. Greater certainty can be achieved in sociological research by using the methods favored by positivists. Human behavior is unpredictable. So 2003, 2005, 2005, 2007, 2008, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. This is, I mean, there are a lot more questions on this as well. There are a lot more other questions on this as well. So yeah, for now I think you all are pretty much taken care of, or this rather say this topic is pretty much taken care of. Again, sociology is a subject. The more you read, the better you keep on getting at it. The more you write, the more confident you'd feel. uh, yeah, take notes. You might as well, if there's any question, feel free to ask. This is pretty much it for the day. Take good care of yourselves. Stay happy, healthy, safe, and protected. Stay humble. Spread positivity, spread smiles, and Allah Hafiz.